Okay, let's add some other time domain effects to this sound. And by time domain, I mean processes that can be done when we're only aware of how the sound changes over time. The amplitude at this sample, the amplitude at this sample, amplitude at this sample. This is in contrast to frequency domain processes in which we do the fast Fourier transform. We figure out what sine waves could be used to describe the sound. Then we get this recipe for the sound that we can tweak in special ways. But it turns out that most of the effects that you're familiar with, I would venture to say probably all the effects you're familiar with are time domain effects. And basically everything could be related to delays in various ways. Yeah, even filters. But let's get on to some more of those. I had this EQ set on my sound, and I'm going to just focus on this one sound. So I'll click this sound and set locators so I can only listen to the sound and it'll loop it for me. And maybe so it's a little less annoying, I'll just drag a little area here so I have a little bit more of a break here. The set locators is nice, but it'll also let you do this automatic or do it manually if you want to. So let's listen to it. Okay, so it sounds like our enemy sub is a little farther away. I'm going to leave this effect on, and we're going to add something else. So I'm going to click a new spot in my insert here, and I'm going to go down to Reverb and click Space Designer. Okay, and this comes up. Now this is a very processor intensive reverb. A reverb is basically a mad mess of delays anyway, so many of them that it sounds like a very smooth smearing of the sound. But let's see what it sounds like just with this default 2-second long reverb impulse. And if I bypass it, here it is, the reverb again. Okay, so with most effects we have some kind of wet dry mix. This is the dry signal here, they're calling it the reverberated signal or the reverb level. Sometimes it's one control that shifts the balance between one or the other. Here we actually get to separately mix the dry and the reverberated sound. And so if we just wanted to listen to the reverberated sound by itself, we can turn it all the way up, turn the dry all the way down. And whoa, we're clipping. So let's turn this down. Okay, that's better. So that's kind of interesting. You notice we're not getting so much of an attack on it. It's taking a little while for our room to respond. So maybe that's why we might want to bring in some of our dry sound, because it has that attack part to it. Hear how it fades in slowly, and with the dry sound, it starts right on. If we want to make our tail still long but quieter, we can add in just a little bit of reverb. So you can experiment with these. Something else you might want to change is the amplitude envelope, or here it's calling it the volume envelope of the sound over time. And this is an envelope that you can just click on various parts of it and drag it. I've picked this part of the curve, and I'm changing how it acts. Like here it's still the same length, but it's fading out a lot quicker and then staying soft longer. Here I can grab this point where it falls to 0 and actually shorten it. And see this progress bar here? You want to wait until that goes away. It's actually recalculating a bunch of stuff. This is a heavy-duty synthesized reverb, and it takes a lot of processor time up front to make these changes. So you won't hear any changes until this little processing bar goes away. But now let's listen to it that we've shortened its volume envelope. And so even if we take this part of the curve and make it stay on longer, here we'll hear the effect. We can bring it even, the decay time even shorter. Wait for it to finish processing. So now we've got a much drier sound. Still has the same timbral properties. We sound like we're in the same room, but it's less resonant in a way. If we want to pick a different reverb sound, come up here for the impulse response sample, and we'll talk about more what that means later. Basically, it's the spectral characteristics of a space, a reverberant space. And so we could pick a small space, and let's see what this gated reverb is like, and we'll just pick something here and open it. Notice we had two different choices here. We had load impulse response or load impulse response and initialize. Load IR and init is the default one, and that resets everything. If we just loaded the IR by itself, we would still have the same decay time and envelopes that we had set. So if we had invested a lot of time in that and knew we wanted something to be particularly dry, you could just change the timbre or the impulse response by doing this without the init feature. But let's see how this sounds now. So by default, it sounds a little shorter. Let's see, we could make it. Yeah, we can make it kind of fade in. And I'll do that like that. Wait for it to finish processing. This might be a little more obvious on something with a longer delay time. Let's listen to just a reverb. You can hear that fade in as opposed to something quicker. Wait for it to finish processing. Okay, that's subtle because we've got something so short. But look, we also have envelopes that we can use to describe filter properties. And look, there's a filter down here. We can activate it or deactivate it if we don't want to use it. Also, we have a density envelope that allows us to change the density is like the smoothness of the sound. The more dense it is, the more copies there are, and so the less we'll be able to pick out distinct copies out of it. The less dense it is, the more lumpy it gets in a way. You have some other parameters here like pre-delay. Pre-delay is an amount of delay that's set before the big rush of smooth reflections comes back. So if we're in a large room, we're making a sound in the middle of the room, and it's going to take some amount of time before we hear the reverberated copies because it just takes so long for to make it to the walls, bounce around a bit, and then come back to us. And so pre-delay can often make a room sound bigger in addition to having longer impulse responses. Let's see, so you also have more numerical controls over these envelopes. You can control whether your filter is a high pass, a low pass, and you have two different kinds of low pass filters, and a band pass, which is basically a combination of high pass and low pass, or functionally equivalent to that. That lets you just focus on one frequency. Here we have a resonance control too, and let's see our filter here. If I click this EQ, I can actually do EQ on it, but I didn't mean to click that, so we'll go back to this. And let's see. I'm going to change the frequency here and make it sweep up a little quicker. This is the center frequency of our bandpass filter. If I want to make this curve a little taller, I can grab this little handle that's coming off it. Okay, well, that was a bad example. Let me try one more. get something longer. Let's see if I want to go back. Let's see, I could click in here and let's see, click up here and go back to the Apple impulse responses, something large. Let's try a spring reverb. That's a fascinating way of making reverb. And pick something that has some, looks like it has some character. Let that load. Okay, so let's check our filter envelope here. Have it start way low, and to try to get this effect across, let's have it end way up there. Let it finish processing here. There we go. With really high resonance here. Oh, and we need to set it to a bandpass filter. I wanted it to be a bandpass filter. Let me let it. Okay, there we go. We'll set it on bandpass filter. Very resonant now. And it'll be emphasizing these frequencies as it sweeps up from 20 hertz to, 20,000. You hear that little sweep in there? Okay. Keep in mind that we can still bypass any of these effects. Like if we want to bypass the EQ and just hear the reverb version. Whoa, that's freaky. Okay. And maybe we like that better, so we'll just leave this bypassed for now. And oops, I closed my inspector. Open up the inspector. Double click to open up my Space Designer and bring down my setting here so it's not clipping. Ah. Now we're giving it a much wider spectral range for it to work with. And it sounds like we're getting eaten by something very sciencey. Okay, so let's take a break, and I'll get to some more time domain effects coming up soon.